Dear listeners, since our subjects address the issues of Muhammad, his Quran, his Sunnah, Arab and Islamic imperialism, Islamic jihad and related matters, we are also going to address anything else that is resultant from the legacy of Muhammad's version of Islam. We have every intention, as part and parcel of our mission, to enlighten an otherwise generally unaware and ignorant world, of delving into the political, social, legal, religious, and current affairs arenas that the followers of Muhammad are adversely and negatively affecting in the whole world today. We shall attempt to address these matters in separate but related chapters, whether these issues have to do with Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, Jews, animists, or any other belief system on earth. Ladies and gentlemen, you should know by now that the followers of Muhammad, whether they are Arab, Pakistanis, Americans, Europeans, blacks, white, or any other, look upon themselves as one ummah, that is, one people, brothers and sisters in the faith of Muhammad and Islam. They consider themselves at war with the so-called unbelieving, disbelieving kuffar, the inhabitants of Dar al-Harb, the territory of war, that is, all of the remaining 80% of humanity. That is, all of us, all Christians, all Hindus, all Buddhists, all Jews, all animists, etc. From their point of reference, all of us also constitute an ummah, a people, the ummah or people of the unbelieving kuffar. Hence, it is very important for all of you, our listeners, to remember and be aware of at all times that any attack by the followers of Muhammad upon the Christians should be considered to be an attack also upon the Hindus, Buddhists, Jews, and others. Any attack against the Hindus should be considered to be an attack also upon the Buddhists, the Christians, the Jews, and others. Any attack against the Jews should be considered to be an attack also upon the Buddhists, the Christians, the Hindus, and others. I hope you are all getting the drift of what I am trying to convey to all of you. But, just in case some of you may be missing it, let me put it another way. We should all act together in defense of each other, otherwise, like with salami cuts, we shall be destroyed one nation at a time, one by one. I hope you have now understood that we can only triumph upon the evil intentions of Muhammad and Islam by working and coordinating our defenses together. In summation, it is the case of one for all and all for one. We have already demonstrated in tens of chapters how Muhammad, like the mafia dons who emulate him, picked upon the most vulnerable people or tribes to make an example of, so as to terrorize the more powerful ones. Muhammad had poets and individuals who satirized or opposed him assassinated in the most vile manner, especially when unarmed and in the dead of night, be they men or women, young or old, free or slave. Muhammad then attacked by ambush pagan, Judaized and Christian Arabian tribes who were mostly shepherds, agriculturists, or in manufacturing, and were not military organizations. Furthermore, Muhammad conducted these raids during the forbidden months of Arabia, when they least expected such acts of wanton destruction and slaughter. In modern times and currently, the followers of Muhammad are walking in his footsteps. While numbering 1,400 million or more, they have their eyes set upon the Jews, who are only 14 million worldwide, and especially Israel, of 5 million Jews. The ratios above are obscenely one-sided, of at least 100 to 1. They, like Muhammad, their mentor before them, believe that by destroying Israel and the Jews, all the other nations and peoples on earth will fall to them one after the other like dominoes. That is why they do their utmost to demonize and dehumanize the Jews and Israelis, so as to justify their destruction, just as Muhammad did to the pagan, Judaized, and Christian Arabs of his time. Blood libel is actually the false accusation that Jews, if not all of them, in all events certain Jewish sects, prepare Passover matzo, the unleavened bread, from the blood of a Gentile or a Christian child. The first such accusation was made by the Alexandrian grammarian Appian circa 40 AD, who accused the Jews of annually fattening a Greek in the Temple of Solomon, killing him, offering his body as a sacrifice, eating of his internal organs, and swearing an oath of enmity against all Greeks. It was in the tumultuous and excitable city of Alexandria, chiefly under the Emperor Caligula, 37 to 41 AD, that his opportunity for using his superficial knowledge to spread hatred came to him. He utilized both tongue and pen in appealing to the prejudices of the street people and assiduously fanned the flames of discord during the conflict that broke out between the Jews and the pagan Jew-haters in Alexandria upon Caligula's imperial decree to have his statue set up and worshipped by the Jews as well as the rest of the people of the Roman Empire. Appian labored against the Jews with growing success, and his fellow citizens appointed him at the head of the delegation to the Emperor Caligula to present the formal charge of disloyalty against the Jews of Alexandria for refusing to put a statue of Caligula in the Temple of Solomon. Caligula was assassinated in 41 AD, and the matter was ended. However, Appian found a powerful antagonist in Flavius Josephus, who, with great skill and sharp sarcasm, refuted every one of his statements and allegations. In his polemic contra Appian, Josephus addressed the subject and demonstrated its utter mendacity and wickedness. Josephus became, for both Jewish and Christian writers, the model par excellence of how a systematic defense of the faith should be conducted. Josephus wrote, "I had my doubts whether I should refute this demagogue, but as there are so many people who are more easily caught by superficial talk than by accurate knowledge, and delight in denunciation more than in commendations, I thought it to be necessary not to let that man off without examination into his accusations. For after all, people might wish to see a transducer like this one once for all exposed to public contempt." The first case in which Jews were actually accused of having killed a Christian child for ritual purposes was that of St. William of Norwich in 1144. According to an account by Jessup and Jebs, St. William of Norwich, Cambridge, 1899, the disappearance of the boy was explained by a Jewish convert to Christianity, one Theobald of Cambridge, who made the spurious accusation of a universal conspiracy by the European Jews that every year they cast lots where the annual sacrifice of a Christian child at Passover should take place. In the preceding year, the lot had been cast and had fallen on Norwich. Absolutely no evidence was adduced that a murder had been committed. It seems indeed that the lad had been merely in a cataleptic fit when found and was buried by his own relatives. None of the Jews were tried or punished for the alleged crime. Yet, the mere statement of the Cambridge Jewish convert led to the bringing of similar charges at Gloucester in 1168, at Bury St. Edmunds in 1181, and at Winchester in 1192. In none of these cases was there any trial. Unfortunately, popular rumor was considered sufficient to establish the martyrdom of the lads, and this proved to be a considerable source of attraction and income to the cathedrals and abbeys of these towns. In December 1235, 5 children of a miller residing in the vicinity of the city of Fulda, Hesse, Nassau, were murdered, in consequence of which 34 Jews and Jewesses were slaughtered by the Crusaders. The Jews were accused of the deed, and those put to the torture are said to have confessed that they murdered the children in order to procure their blood for purposes of healing. It is necessary to note here, 1, that the reports say nothing of the presence of witnesses. 2, that the confessions were elicited through torture and were consequently worthless. 3, that these confessions speak only of the intention to procure a remedy, a remedium, and contain no reference to ritualistic ceremonies. 4, that the German emperor Frederick II, in order to sift the matter thoroughly, invited a large number of scholars and distinguished Jewish converts to Christianity from all parts of Europe who, in the answer to the question whether the Jews required Christian blood for their Passover ceremonies, replied, "Neither the Old nor the New Testament states that the Jews lust for human blood. On the contrary, it is expressly stated in the Bible, in the laws of Moses, and in the Jewish ordinances designated in Hebrew as the Talmud, that they should not defile themselves with blood. Those to whom even the tasting of animal blood is prohibited surely cannot thirst for that of human beings. Because of the horror of the thing, because it is forbidden by nature, because of the human tie that also binds the Jews to Christians, and because they would not willfully imperil their lives and property." The judgment of the emperor reads, "For these reasons we have decided, with the general consent of the governing princes, to exonerate the Jews of the district from the grave crime with which they have been charged, and to declare the remainder of the Jews in Germany free from all suspicion." Many popes have either directly or indirectly condemned the blood accusations. Pope Gregory X, for example, issued a letter on the Jews, 1271-76, called "Against the Blood Libel," rejecting the blood libel accusations, and no pope has ever sanctioned it, though the assertions are usually spread and promoted by local clergy to serve their own self-interests. It is an obscenity of theology and justice, let alone of morality, that the Jews, who are utterly forbidden by the Torah, the law of Moses, from consuming any blood whatsoever. That is why kosher meat is carefully washed and salted to remove all traces of blood, were and are precisely the people accused of drinking human blood. The blood libel makes even less sense when one considers that in the 13th century, during the Fourth Lateran Council of 1215, the Church Fathers adopted the doctrine of transubstantiation. This is the dogma which maintains that when the priest says Mass over the wafer and wine, these objects mystically change into the body and blood of Jesus. Hence, Christians who consume the wafer and drink the wine are said to be mystically eating the flesh of Jesus and drinking his blood. Leviticus 17.10. "And whoever there is of the house of Israel, or of the strangers who sojourn among you, who eats any kind of blood, I will set my face against that soul who eats blood, and will cut him off from among his people. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls. For it is the blood that makes an atonement for the soul. Therefore I said to the people of Israel, no soul of you shall eat blood, nor shall any stranger who sojourns among you eat blood." Leviticus 19.26. "You shall not eat anything with the blood, for it is the life of all flesh. The blood of it is for its life. Therefore I said to the people of Israel, you shall not eat the blood of any kind of flesh, for the life of all flesh is its blood. Whoever eats it shall be cut off." Deuteronomy 12.16. "Only you shall not eat the blood. You shall pour it upon the earth like water." Contrary to all the anti-Jewish accusations and libel that the Jews use human blood in their unleavened bread, the Torah's categorical prohibitions against eating blood are crystal clear, and the penalty is death. Unfortunately, Muhammadan Muslim scholars, knowing full well that there is absolutely no basis for these obscene and unsubstantiated allegations, follow faithfully and blindly the footsteps of their mentor Muhammad, with his usual depraved indifference to facts, to reality, to morality, to justice, or to the historical record, do not shrink from repeating this libel in all forms of their news media. Only 2 years ago, for example, the Egyptians produced a very long series depicting Jews ritually slaughtering a Christian boy so as to mix his blood with the Passover matzah, the unleavened bread. They showed this diabolical and insightful program during the holy month of Ramadan to a captive audience of hundreds of millions of Mohammedan Muslims all around the globe. Pictures are 1,000-fold more effective than words on paper. This is Islamofascism at its worst. So-called believers and unbelievers, please also remember that it was Muhammad who asserted that silence means consent. Bukhari Hadith 9.101, narrated by Aisha. That is why the so-called Muslim moderates never, ever demonstrate anywhere in the world, at any time, against those so-called extremists who are visiting death and destruction against both believers and unbelievers in the names of Allah and Islam. They not once proclaimed in a public demonstration saying, "Not in our name." The reason is as obvious as it is simple. Although they are not actively aiding and abetting the fundamentalist Mohammedan terrorists, they are most assuredly condoning their actions. Once again, I would like to remind you that it was Muhammad who said, "Silence means consent." Ladies and gentlemen, please listen carefully to the following very relevant and poignant statements. All that is necessary for evil to triumph is that for good men to do nothing. Edmund Burke, 19th century English statesman. And finally, first they came for the communists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for the Catholics, and I didn't speak up because I was a Protestant. Then they came for me, and by that time there was no one left to speak up for me. This was German pastor Martin Neumüller, written in Dachau concentration camp in 1944. This subject is a very important lesson in anti-Semitism or Jew baiting. One can say anything about the Jews, no matter how far-fetched or untrue, but people will still believe it. All dictators and authoritarian regimes started by first attacking the Jews. All others were targeted afterwards.